Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast, live stream edition on Tuesday night, June 4th. I am your host, Stephen Nagishi. You might notice a little bit different than the previous settings where I'm at right now. I had to move to another state for a new assignment recently. So I apologize for the fan that's going in the back. That might not be a little bit noticeable and might, bother some people there. As always, I am about to bring up my co-host from the Awful Announcing, the associate editor himself, Ken Fang. Ken, good evening, and thanks for joining me once again. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Stephen. I know we had a week off, but you were doing some things. It's a new location. That's why there's the fan behind you. But good to see you, be on with you once again.
Yes, this is a Airbnb. I'm going to be here until next week, until I am ready to move to a new place. So, this is, as I said earlier, this might seem a little bit bothersome for people who see the fan going around in the background. So I apologize there for this week as well as next week. All right, Ken, we have so much to talk about since we missed last week's story. Obviously, we wanted to get into a little bit of a different story to start with, but we cannot ignore the elephant in the room that is the WNBA and the Caitlin Clark. Over the weekend against Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky on Saturday morning, which, by the way, drew a 1.5 million viewers on 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern. It was supposed to be a game that was, was supposed to be a rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese that was well known from their days in college. 2 years ago, obviously, they faced each other in the national championship, if I recall, Ken. That has carried over into the NBA. Kind of like the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird when they faced each other in 1979 national championship that has carried over into the NBA. And we all know that the subsequent years where Michael Jordan was also drafted a few years later, the NBA's popularity skyrocketed when it was just nothing more than a butt of a joke. The game being aired at 12:30 Eastern when nobody's watching. The league was full of problems with players flunking drug tests, junkies, and all that other stuff. I'm not saying that the WNBA is all of that, but what I see similarities was Clark and Angel Reese continuing their, rivalry in the WNBA, and the popularity of WNBA has never been more higher thanks to these two ladies. And we'll get to, the comments on Angel Reese a little bit that was intentionally, cut short. But obviously the foul that was committed by Chicago Sky's Kennedy, what was her name? I'm so sorry. I'm blanking out.
Let me get it. Let me get it, Stephen.
It was Kennedy Carter, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. It was Kennedy, but this is not the Kennedy with a K like John F. Kennedy or the Kennedy family. This is the one with the CH that starts with the CH, and then Kennedy Carter, who was actually kind of like had a journeyman career, had to play overseas last year to get herself back into the WNBA, playing for the Sky this year. Gave her a hip check that really started this foul, and then the subsequent discourse that we saw yesterday and today, Ken. And I wish that the WNBA was a little bit more well prepared in handling stuff like this. It's unfortunate that WNBA was not really gotten that much of attention, and I don't think we're going to be pointing fingers at the media in general until now. But what do you make of this whole Clark foul, getting intentionally fouled, and the whole subsequence that the WNBA could have done a better job handling it?
Yeah, well, she's a rookie, just like Angel
And
Reese.
Clark, that is right. The
Yeah,
Clark, that is right.
Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink. They're all rookies. They're all going to have their ups and downs. Caitlin Clark is the most visible because she's coming from college, and really, to be honest with you, there's been no rest for her because she's been coming in right from college, right in the WNBA season is basically 2 weeks or 3 weeks right after the NCAA women's Final Four. So she really hasn't had any rest. She's had to do a lot of stuff. But I will, just like any player, she's a competitor and she's a trash talker. So she and Carter were mouthing off to each other uh, before that. If you see the entire video, when unfortunately we can't play it because it's copyrighted and we don't want to get a strike on YouTube. But the highlight was that she and Kennedy Carter were talking on the other end and then went down to the end where everyone's seen that foul. And that was where Caitlin Clark had her back turned. All of a sudden, Kennedy Carter comes along, yells something to her, and knocks her down. Right. No foul was really called. Caitlin Clark was wondering where the foul was. And then, of course, Angel Reese gets up off the bench, gives her a fist bump, and then basically puts her arm around her to say, hey, yeah, absolutely. You go, girl. So I'm not going to there likely should have been a foul. The WNBA has basically called it a flagrant after the fact. That also affects Carter's play down the road because there are points against her now. They're not finding her. I mean, I think they actually did find her, but I will say that you're right.
I think it was Angel Reese who got fined because she skipped the media obligation.
Oh yeah, Carter did too because she skipped the media. Oh no, she was there too. You're right. Kennedy Carter did speak about it.
I think she got flagrant one. So that's
she got a flagrant run. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the issue is that as you see there that Stephen wrote is the WNBA is experiencing growing pains, and with this attention that they've received, of course, now with more and more people watching, and with every game of the Indiana Fever on TV in one way or the other, whether it's on NBA TV. In fact, what's interesting is that the rematch between the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky, I think, is in July. It's going to be on CBS. Expect that the ratings for that game, Stephen, to be through the roof because everyone wants to see what's going to happen between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark again. But also, they just basically weren't ready for this type of attention. And now that everything is scrutinized, heavily scrutinized, and it led Monday to some really, really bad discourse, which we'll get into in a moment. But let's just say this. Understood that Diana Taurasi did mention during the women's Final Four that Caitlin Clark is going to have to get ready. She's playing pros. She's going to get ready for some treatment, which has happened. And she's seeing better defenses. And there's been some nights, like, for instance, against the New York Liberty on Sunday, she only scored 3 points. There have been nights when she's played a poor quality team in the WNBA, like the Los Angeles Sparks, where she's been able to get double figures and get close to a double-double. But when she's going to be playing like the Las Vegas Aces or the New York Liberty or another team that's better quality, she's been, as we've seen, Stephen, it's not like when she's in college when she can dominate and play against a different type of competition. This is a much better, these are the best players in the world. Okay. But, and yes, we're going to, when you say like Michael Jordan had the same type of treatment, the Jordan rules in the NBA, Larry Bird had to go through it when he went in as well. Magic Johnson, not to a certain extent, because he was basically a leader on the Los Angeles Lakers along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he came in the league. But all the rookies go through this type of treatment. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not saying that it's the best thing. But you have growing pains. You have to learn basically that you have to adjust. And Caitlin Clark is learning that. And I also a little bit of faults of the WNBA for starting so soon. They've always done this. They've always started right after the women's Final Four, not really allowing players to get rest from those coming from college. So Caitlin Clark, you can see she's tired. She had no legs basically Sunday when she played the New York Liberty, and that's why she only scored 3 points. But the WNBA has to be aware they can't ignore fouls against rookies. And Angel Reese actually also got mugged as well in a couple of games too. She was knocked down a few times too. No foul has been called.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just not Caitlin Clark. It's other players, rookies coming in. This is a highly, a very highly visible class that's coming in. You've got not only Caitlin Clark, as I mentioned, you've got Angel Reese, you got Cardoso coming in from South Carolina. You've got other players as well. And I do have to say that Caitlin Clark is handling it quite well. She's handling it better than I think she really could. She could whine about it. I don't think anyone would blame her, but she's just saying, hey, it's basketball. She did mention that the foul by Carter was not a basketball play. But overall, she's saying, hey, look, I got to get better. I got to learn how to play. These are the best players in the world. And she's being classy. She's being more than gracious than anything than she couldn't really needs to be. But she's doing great. And, we could talk about, and Cameron Brink has also been wonderful about it as well. But you could also talk about Angel Reese, who's been a little bit, she says she doesn't mind being the heel. But hey, that's fine. But again, as we said, growing pains. The WNBA's got to be a little bit better officiated. They can't turn their back, especially when Caitlin Clark gets knocked down, or Angel Reese gets knocked down, or Cameron Brink gets knocked down. They've got to call it fair and square for everybody, no matter what. And let's hope the WNBA can adjust, especially as they go into the Olympic break, which will be coming up next month when the Olympics come up in Paris, Stephen.
Yeah, I think the WNBA leadership kind of failed here. Starting with the commissioner. I know they're kind of focused on growing the game right now, talking about expansions, stuff like that. But there are other important things that I think the WNBA really needs to, tighten up their ship, especially like this. When something like this happens, obviously it's a bad look for an entire league, starting with not just the players, the coaches, and the organization, but an entire league and the league leadership. That starts and ends with the commissioner. So I hope that the commissioner really steps up and makes sure that her product is not being used for racial or political reasons, because it's not a good look for the WNBA as they continue to grow and as they continue to gain more attention and perhaps more better television contracts down the road. Obviously, it means more money for the players. But if there are several severe discords within the the league, among the players, and then also the WNBA leadership, obviously all the goodwill will eventually go out of the window rather quickly.
Yeah, Kathy Engelhardt, who is the WNBA commissioner, she says, "Hey, welcome to the NBA. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're watching." And they're seeing the benefits of the ratings that the NCAA Women's Final Four and women's college basketball has gotten for the last 2 years. But now, I'm sure they're going to continue to get really good ratings. Of course, Juju Watkins is going to be coming in a couple of years from USC.
Yep.
And they're going to have a lot more great basketball players coming into the league also internationally as the WNBA gets more and more attention. Kind of similar to what the NBA is that with a lot of great international players, this is only going to grow the game even more. But as you mentioned, officiating has got to get better. They got to clean that up. One thing, a great article in the Chicago Sun-Times over the weekend, and as you mentioned, Angel Reese got fined for not speaking out. The Chicago Sky have this reputation for not making their players available to the media.
Right.
You just can't.
It's a poor reflection on the organization, because it's if it's an organization, an organizational thing, then that means it's also impacts the community, the entire community that rallies behind the organization, also the city itself too. So
Yeah, and I like it. Angel Reese said she doesn't mind being the bad guy. She did mention that
right,
it was just not Caitlin Clark that got people interested in women's college basketball. It was her also as well. You know, um,
but that was
maybe that.
actually kind of intentionally edited out just to make her look bad, apparently. And we'll play that clip in a little bit later, the one that I believe.
And again, I'm not bashing her because yes, thanks to her,
Right,
she's part of that too, and she's absolutely right
that's
about that.
true.
Yeah, and Angel Reese has gotten endorsements thanks to winning the national championship 2 seasons ago. So I'm not going to
Right,
fault her for saying that type of thing because she's part of that group. She absolutely is part of that group and should be given credit. Along with Caitlin Clark and along with Cameron Brink and along with all the other players who have come into the league this season, Stephen. But you know, the sports media discourse, and this is something we covered on Awful Announcing yesterday, was just awful. I don't know what happened. I wasn't feeling very well, Stephen, at work, so I went home and I came home to a video clip of Stephen A. Smith on First Take yesterday on ESPN stating that without him, no, I don't want to say without him, but I just said, but basically taking credit saying, hey, nobody's talked more about the WNBA than First Take. And I give credit to Monica McNutt for calling him out and saying, hey, look, Stephen, you've had a platform. You've had a great platform. You could have done more. You could have easily done more. And that's the first time I've ever seen Stephen A. Smith quiet and totally speechless. And I give Monica McNutt total credit for calling him out on that. And then that happened at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock yesterday afternoon Eastern time, Stephen.
in the morning, yeah.
Yeah. And then noontime, Pat McAfee on his show on ESPN, first words out of his mouth was talking about, and he was trying to be funny, but it came out absolutely horribly by saying, Caitlin Clark, here's this white bitch, and all that stuff. That didn't come out well. And then at the end of the day, the Chicago Sun-Times, the aforementioned Chicago Sun-Times, calling the foul an assault, which, I don't know where this is coming from. Stephen, it was a really bad day for sports media, very bad day for male sports media personalities who don't normally talk about the NBA. Look, great that we're talking about the WNBA. Great that we're beginning to talk more and get more attention to the league. Great that we're going to be discussing it. But, man, it was just really bad yesterday. It was really, really bad. And, of course...
right, it was really, really bad. And no surprise that, the guys or the people who are kind of leading the charge in their stupid hot takes are, the two aforementioned people, Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee. I'm going to play a clip from your website, Awful Announcing.
Yeah, this is his podcast
Stephen A.
last night.
Smith getting...
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and play that. I'll comment after that, but go ahead and play that. But make that full screen after you play the video. After you put the video up. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to play this one right now.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty pissed off today. I'm not going to deny it. And I will confess to you, I'm pretty pissed off for some of my colleagues.
Oh, did it stop?
Yeah, it's buffering, so we'll just wait. Let me just say, I can paraphrase
one in
what he
particular.
Said.
I usually don't call folks out that I work with. There's always exceptions because sometimes they're necessary.
Folks, I apologize for a lot of the buffering here today.
I can paraphrase what he said. He said he basically
Sure,
took credit for the women, and he said without him, people like Monica McNutt and a lot of the other female basketball analysts that have been seen on ESPN would not be known without him. And I think that is just, he just doesn't know. Stephen A. Smith, look, kudos to him for becoming a big part of ESPN. I mean, I can't begrudge him for making the money. I can't begrudge him for for being as big as he is. But, you know, you got to know when to let things go. And Monica McNutt got him good yesterday on First Take. And
Right.
he just got angry, and he just couldn't let it go. And,
Right.
you know, there are times when
we're talking about them maximizing their great potential. And
my apologies there, Ken. I'm going to play a clip that really kind of set the tone on why Stephen A. and Monica McNutt went after each other. This was, I believe, on Monday, right?
Yeah, that was First Take in the Monday morning. Yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about them maximizing their great potential. And because we bring that up and talk about what potentially might get in their way, which we do to men all the time, now we got to sit up here and watch.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize there, folks. I would highly recommend going to awfulannouncing.com and play those clips. Obviously, I'm not in the hotel, so the internet connection's a little bit iffy. So, again, my apologies to anybody.
Get it up on my end, Stephen.
Thank you, Ken.
But
and my apologies to my co-host as well for
that's okay.
having to deal with this myself.
Let me see if I can get it up for you. I can find it. But I just gotta say, it's just one of the silly. It was just one of the dumbest things that yesterday in regards to that about this whole thing that came about Stephen. That Stephen A. Smith just couldn't let things go. But we'll play the original clip. I'm gonna find it for you just a second here.
Yeah, I saw a lot of so-called mansplaining at his worst. It was just a horrible, horrible day. I'm sure people like Monica McNutt didn't. And I'm glad that she didn't mince words. She took it to Stephen A. And for Stephen A. to actually get jealous or at least have somebody call him out in this manner. I thought it was very, very appropriate, and Stephen A. probably should have, just handled it much better.
Yep.
It's because he has a bigger platform, and then for him to all of a sudden start, banning or even punishing Monica McNutt just because he spoke out against her would be just, it would be unfortunate. But, between him and Pat McAfee, obviously making, taking up so much of the salary, and then obviously ESPN is going through some massive layoffs in all departments, just to cater to these two clown shows in the mornings. Would be just incredibly tragic right now.
Right. Let's play that clip here. I'm going to play it on my screen.
We're talking about them maximize their great potential. And because we bring that up and talk about what potentially might get in their way, which we do to men all the time, now we got to sit up here and watch every syllable. I resent that, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, so let me. I know we got to go to break. Welcome to the world of being a woman, Stephen A., and how you have to dance about your word choice and you have to please everybody and anybody as you navigate your being. We are talking about the world's greatest.
How about being a black man?
Being black. Hold on 1 second. Have you... So this is what I'm saying to y'all, though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there, and maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. When you no. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are going to say and Stephen A., I know you're going to, you just shared that you've talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level. That's all I'm saying in these conversations. Kennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie. That's all I'm at.
All right.
Who talks about the WNBA? Who talks about women? Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Wow.
All right, we got to go. You guys.
So did you say
you're my guy, but
okay, yeah, that's enough.
That's great. You could just see that.
I'm glad. There's so much that obviously that Monica McNutt has held it in her, and that she really wanted to, just drive the stake into Stephen A's heart, and then she really took it and did it.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and get the other. I'll get that other clip that you were trying to play, Stephen. I'll get that up for you. It was just one of those. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get that up for you. I'm going to get this ready for you. Stephen A. pushback against Monica McNutt. As soon as the clip comes up, I'll play it for you. As I mentioned, he can't let things go. He has to somehow get the last word in, and this is what he did. I'm going to share the screen with you just a second, Stephen. I'll get that for you. All right, here we go. Let me get it up for you. Hold on. And here it is.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty pissed off today. I'm not going to deny it. And I will confess to you, I'm pretty pissed off at some of my colleagues. One in particular. I usually don't call folks out that I work with. Because sometimes they're necessary. The Stephen A. Smith Show coming your way right now.
Okay, well, this is the whole show. I'm not going to.
Right, it's a whole show, and I apologize. That was the part that but we get the gist of it. That 30 seconds of who he was referring to. We all know who he was referring to anyway. So
yeah.
Obviously, he had to use his platform to call out a colleague that was calling him out, and rightfully so. So just such a small dude. These people are, they act so tough in front of camera. Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, and then also even brings out the, racist idiots like Jason Whitlock and, Travis Clay, Sean Hannity, and all that, the dumbasses that will continuously, need to use that as some sort of a black versus white thing. That's been so polarizing in this country, Ken.
Yeah. And of course, as I mentioned, after Stephen A. Made his comments, let's get this up here. Hold on just a second. I'm going to get this up for you. It's just the discourse just got really dumber as the day went on, Stephen. It really got stupid. And
it really did. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just get this up for you. Hold on. Let me get it up. It just angers me, and I'll play the whole thing.
The goat. Is she what? I don't know. With my eyes, I couldn't see if she's Caucasian or not.
This is Pat McAfee.
What the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow. There is a superstar, and we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple-year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire points records in the history of the NCAA, not just the women's record by Kelsey Plum, shout out, but also Pistol Pete Maravich's, the dude's record as well? Is there a chance that people just enjoy watching her play basketball because how electrifying she is, what she did, what she stood for, how she went about going, what she went for? Maybe. But instead, we have to hear people say that we only like her because she's white. And she's only popular because the rest of the rookie class is doing what they're doing. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. And we think the WNBA, more specifically, their refs need to stop trying to screw her over at every single turn. What you have is somebody special. And we're lucky she's here in Indiana. And that was, guess which WNBA rookie.
All right. So again, it just got dumb. It really got dumb, Stephen. And
Right, Dumber and Dumber. Who's a dumber? Who
Yeah.
can be more dumber than that?
And then, as I mentioned, he did apologize later in the afternoon. He did apologize, and he did contact the Indiana Fever to apologize to Caitlin Clark. And again, Caitlin Clark was more gracious than she had to be. She accepted the apology, and she said, "We're good." Okay, but I also think
she's not asking any of these clowns to try and stick up to her and try to protect her.
No, she's a big girl, and she knows how to compete, and she says she knows where she has to improve. But you know what? I really don't understand. It really just, I got tired yesterday, Stephen, and then it got even dumber with the Chicago Sun-Times
Chicago Tribune's editorial stuff.
Yeah,
right?
by calling it an assault. Right. It wasn't an assault. It was just a foul.
Exactly.
It was a hard foul, and it wasn't necessary. It was in the heart of competition. But I just really don't know where this all came from. I mean,
I don't get it either.
I mean, there was no NBA yesterday, and there was no NHL for us to talk about. So there was, and we were in the slow period until both the NBA finals start up on Thursday, Stephen, and the NHL Stanley Cup final starts on Saturday. But it was dumb. It was really, really stupid. And I just really, I as a sports media reporter who's been following the sports media really in earnest since 2007, Stephen, it was just tiring. I was like really, I felt really bad for having to cover this beat, which I've done. And I just wondered why can't we have, I don't want to sound like an elitist, because also Bob Costas got involved and he didn't say anything smart either. I just wonder where all this is coming from. I really do. I mean, yes, it was.
Yeah,
it was something that I don't get. I really don't.
I mean, if that was an assault, then what do we describe the malice of the palace that happened 20 years ago?
Right.
I mean, what is that? What is that? A first degree murder?
Yeah.
Seriously. Right. I mean, that's an assault. Okay. That is an assault of epic proportion, the malice at the palace 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. This is nothing more than a hard foul check that was not called properly. And obviously that really that's how it started. And because, again, I know you mentioned Bob Costas didn't say it smart things, obviously, but, he did mention on CNN the other night that it was a black on white foul. That's obviously kind of garnered the attention compared to when Angel Reese was fouled by, was that Asia Wilson who fouled her?
I can't remember who fouled her, but it was a really flagrant foul, and they did knock it.
Oh, it was Alyssa Thomas.
Alyssa Thomas, yeah, and that was actually her. That was something that Angel Reese says that she had
as a black on black.
Yeah.
Incident, so
yeah, I mean, again, as a rookie, getting I don't want to say comeuppance, but it's just getting to know that hey, it's the WNBA, it's a different league, and things are going to be different here when you come into the league. And I think Angel Reese understands that. And like you said, she had her comments over the weekend in regards to the whole situation. It's just going to be interesting to see how. I really hope, Stephen, when the Sky and the Fever get together, we're not going to see stupid, idiotic comments that over the next month or so, or even the days we get to the game. Let's just hope that we get regular game coverage. But you know where it's going to go. You know where it's going to go because of this hot take society and the way things are in the 24/7 news cycle. Everyone's going to have their take on it. So I wish for the best, but I know that the worst is going to be coming out.
Yes, and as long as the McAfees and Stephen A. Smith of the world continues to dominate airtime, it will only going to get worse. And they're going to gaslight the whole thing. And eventually it will get very, very ugly, where things could get really, really ugly, not just on the court, but off the court as well, where you could have like an angry dude assaulting a black athlete because she fouled Clark hard, or it was racially motivated and stuff like that. So it is an unfortunate situation. And then I also wanted to touch on Angel Reese, because I think obviously she is the other star that people think of her, and then obviously the comments she made about how the league, she said that everybody's paying attention to the league because of me, which was cleverly edited to make it look like her a villain that she is to a degree. I'm going to play a clip from RG3's website. Here we go.
Like, it's not just because of one person. A lot of us have done so much for this game. And Kennedy has been here before, obviously, but there are so many great players in this league that have deserved this for a really, really long time. And luckily, it's coming now. I'm trying to realize that.
So, obviously, that comments that she said about how everybody's paying attention to the WNBA because of me, as an Angel Reese, was cleverly edited, but that was not the case. Again, because she's such a polarizing, a player. Obviously, her long-standing feud / rivalry with Angel Reese has people taking sides, from a racial perspective. Unfortunately, she will always more than likely get the the wrath from the media members. That is still primarily dominated by male, and mostly Caucasian males, and not just in on-air personality, but also from the very important executive position, as well as the production side as well.
Yeah, and the discourse, I just really hope it improves. I was very happy to be at work today, so I don't know if there's anything stupid that came out, but I just want to say that Monday was a really bad day, and let's hope that things get a little bit better as we go along during the week, Stephen, and also next week. Let's hope that this really silly debate over the foul and the discussion over the foul becomes a distant memory.
Look, this is just a basketball game,
Yeah.
This is the foul was a flagrant foul that needed to be called earlier. But these types of plays has been, this is a competition. There's nothing more than that. And this has been going on for quite some time, even well before Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were even born. Obviously, these women, part of it is, again, a lot of it may be stemming from jealousy, whether it's from a financial or even from a racial standpoint. It's unfortunate, but as long as they know at the end game is the growth of the game, which everybody profits from to a certain degree, where we don't have to see a second coming of Brittany Griner, where she was incarcerated in a shithole country like Russia for almost a year, when she could have been held there for who knows how long, where women don't have to go overseas to make a living. That's the end goal, so that we don't have to have another Brittany Griner again. So I just hope that we all come to have a come to Jesus moment, and everybody step up and make the league a better product, because we don't want the league to be known as a somewhat of a polarizing league where it fizzles in the end.
Right.
So
exactly.
This is a moment of truth for everybody involved in the WNBA, and I just hope that cooler heads will eventually prevail moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on. One thing that we have to mention that happened while we were away last week, the great Bill Walton passed away. One of the greatest college basketball players of all time. He and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar considered 1 and 1A in college basketball. Won 2 championships, one with Portland in 1977 in the NBA, won a second one with the Boston Celtics in 1985. A man who also probably now known better as an announcer than he was as a player, but just know that had he been healthy, Stephen, who knows what his legacy would have been in the NBA. He still, as a player, was on the 50th anniversary team and the 75th anniversary team as a player. Won an MVP in 1978. Won a six-man award in 1985. One of only two players who have done that. James Harden was the other. Walton, in addition to being a player and an announcer, was also a great, really a person who gave a lot of his own time to causes, whether it was to disabled athletes, whether it was to homeless people, and we just heard acts of kindness from him throughout his season. So Bill Walton passing away at the age of 71, Stephen. And I can think of great stories of him, and it's just to see these great stories just over the last week since his passing. It just shows you that he was more than just a basketball player and an announcer, Stephen.
Yeah. I think when you think of Bill Walton, I think you look at him and all the goofiness and everything behind it. This is a man
out of it while it's lit.
Who really, really live a life to the fullest. Obviously, his antics with was it Bill Pash? Bill Pash. Dave Pash. Excuse me. Obviously, calling the Pac-10, Pac-12 games on ESPN on the West Coast, and then obviously, he did baseball with Jason Benetti a couple of years ago. Bill was somebody who kind of like epitomized life. He lived life to the fullest every day, and he doesn't give a shit about what other people thinks of him. He just really lived life to the fullest. And this is a man who is kind of like the epitome of, living it up, living it to the fullest. And, it's unfortunate that, we will never, ever get to hear his antics. I know it had its share of criticism. Not everybody, obviously Bill Walton is not everybody's cup of tea, mind you. But it's obviously it really hits you hard when somebody like Bill, and I hope, I'm sure that Bill lived life to the fullest, and there are no regrets in his life, and hopefully that there will be somebody like Bill. I don't think nobody will, certainly, if they try to emulate it, will fail miserably. Obviously imitation is a form of art. That's a flattery, but I don't think no one can be Bill Walton and this, eccentric, it was just a joy to listen to him call games, both in the pros and in college, obviously later years with the aforementioned Dave Pash here, as you see him there on ESPN there. Just an incredible chemistry. I think it kind of goes to show who he is and the impact that he had on the lives of, many, many people. And I'm sure there will be, a lot of people, sitting down and talk about his stories, and, everybody will have their share of stories and laugh at his funeral or something like that.
Yes, Stephen, let me just say that, as a kid growing up in the 1970s, Bill Walton, he was part of those great UCLA teams, won 88 games in a row. No, UConn, the women have since passed that, but I don't think we'll ever see that type of winning streak in the men's side ever again. He won 2 national championships with UCLA, could have won a third. They were beaten in the 1974 Final Four in double overtime by North Carolina State, led by David Thompson. but that was a team that could have easily won 3 national championships. He couldn't play as a freshman due to NCAA rules at the time. He couldn't he couldn't dunk the basketball because of rules, anti-UCLA rules that was against, at the time, Lou Alcindor, now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He still managed to adjust. He has still one of the greatest games of all time in the 1973 final against Memphis State, 21 of 22.
Yep.
And he missed just one shot. He actually shot worse from the line. I think he was 4 for 8 from the line, but 22 of 21 from the field, Stephen. And then, of course, he got hurt in the NBA. He had a bad back. He had bad ankles. But when he was healthy, and especially during the 1977 season, that was a team that helped to bring about Blazer Mania. He, along with Maurice Lucas, Dave Twardzik, a lot of great players, Lionel Hollins, coached by Jack Ramsey. They won the championship against the Philadelphia 76ers, the heavily favored 76ers, led by Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins, and all those great players. Gene Shue was the coach. 76ers went up 2-0, and then the Blazers swept the next 4 games to win the championship. And the next season, Stephen, 1978, that team was even better. They were 52-10, and then Walton got hurt, and then it was never the same after that. They didn't win another. They got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs because Walton wasn't there. He was basically hurt and floundering in the NBA. He went to San Diego to play for the Clippers. Believe it or not, the Clippers were in San Diego for a while.
Yep.
It is San Diego. And then they moved to Los Angeles, but that's where he actually got traded to the Boston Celtics. He was healthy for the 1985 season, played with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge. I say this as a guy who grew up in that time in the Boston area. That team was probably one of the greatest teams of all time, the 1985 Celtics. And then the following season, Walton they won the 1986 championship, but then Walton got hurt again. So the 1987 season, the Celtics started aging and getting old, and Walton really never played again. But the fact is that he was a smart player, a great passer, a guy who had great awareness on the basketball court. Who knows what could have happened had he stayed healthy? And he had the technology today that could have repaired his broken ankles and his bad back. But then he became a broadcaster. He overcame a stutter, Stephen. At the age of 28, he was really shy, and that's what really hurt him with the media when he was playing. But then he began to work on a stutter, and then in the 1990s started to become a broadcaster. He worked on the NBA and NBC, worked with Marv Albert, Steve Jones. If you hear those great games where he worked with Steve Jones, that's when his back and forth, almost where he honed his personality to where you saw him going back and forth with Dave Pasch on the Pac-12 games. He became a great personality, and as I mentioned, probably known now better by the younger generation as a broadcaster than he was as a player. But if you have a chance to look up on YouTube, look at those UCLA games. I know they're going to be grainy videos, Stephen, but man, when I was a kid watching UCLA, I hated UCLA growing up as a kid because they're on the West Coast and they won all the time. But as a much older man now, I can appreciate the fact is that winning 88 games is not easy. I don't care what your competition is. Back then, you could only have, I think 32 teams playing in the NCAA tournament. So you really had to win your conference to get into the NCAA tournament to win. And you did it. So, and as some of the humanitarian things that Bill Walton did, taking people into his house, espousing the lessons that he learned from John Wooden and Jack Ramsey. Just amazing. And he never really was a person who blew people off. My cousin met him. Actually, we were in Las Vegas. We met him. He gave time to my cousin to talk about a couple of things that my cousin wanted to do. It never happened, but my cousin wanted to do some business in San Diego. he asked Bill Walton if he could do it. Walton said yes, but they never got around to doing it. But I just can't say enough good things about Bill Walton, Stephen. He was a man who gave us a lot of great stuff, and I would have loved to have heard him call games of late night Big 12 or Big 10 games next season, but we'll never have that chance. And I think it's actually appropriate that Bill Walton will never know a life without the Pac-12 as we know it.
Mm-hmm. Well said there, Ken. Well said. Obviously, stating his past and his lifelong goals and, lessons that he learned from two great legends, and then again living life as if he was the man in character, and he never deviated. He was as real as he was, and whether you like it or not, that's who he was. So I think we should appreciate what Bill Walton did on and off the court. All right, speaking of on the court, the NBA Finals will start on Thursday. It is the Dallas Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics. Certainly not the kind of matchup that we expected from the when the season started. I'm very, very happy for the Mavericks. They're probably my second team that I root for since I used to live in Dallas. And my good friend Jeff Skinwade, who's been on our show before, is a sideline reporter for the Dallas Mavericks with their Bally Sports Southwest team down there. Unfortunately, he will not be covering the game because it's all national games. But really, really happy for Skin. I say that, this was a very good game, leading up to this one. The Mavericks really didn't have much of a trouble against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Final. They blitzed to a 3-0 lead. They lost Game 4, unfortunately. Game 5, just watching it from the bar, it was no contest. It was just a total beatdown, like we saw when they blitzed the Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago in the Western Conference semifinals, where they just completely blew the door off. And I tell you, I was very impressed. I think this is Luka Doncic's best moments. Obviously, a lot has been called about him. A whiner, a guy who flops or who complains a lot. But this is the best team that he's had. Nico Harrison, the executive who got the contract extension today, really finally put together a real good team. Acquiring PJ Washington and Darnell Gafford, the big guy, and Kyrie Irving. Say what you will about him, he is finally looks like he's a matured, not just physically but also from an emotional standpoint, and he enjoys playing with Luka. And he seems to be really having fun. He's going back to Boston, where his time in Boston was, as you can probably less than perfect, as mildly put it. Certainly, I think the Boston fans will be booing the hell out of him, heckling him. But I'm very curious to see how Irving handles the pressure of playing in Boston. If he goes off, I think then this could be a very, very dangerous series for the Boston Celtics. And Ken, I'm going to call it right now. I think Dallas will win this series in 6 games.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be different, and I'll say the Celtics will win this in 7. I know that I think Dallas has the home court advantage on this.
No, it's Boston. Boston has it.
Okay, so it's going to start in Boston. I do think that, of course, the big thing is that the former Dallas Maverick Porzingis is playing, but he's hurt. We don't know when he's going to be going in this series, but you also have Jalen. You have Tatum, and then you also have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who I hope have done great job in this postseason. Drew Holiday also as well, coming off the bench, and then you also have Al Horford, the ageless wonder, I think he's 75 years old, but still playing in the NBA. I think it's just amazing what he's been doing. His sister, of course, continues to chime to bark back on social media. Anyone who criticizes Al, but he's an ageless wonder, and he has a chance to get his first NBA title. So I really think that this is going to be a fun series, Stephen. I think it's going to be highly watched. I think it's going to be one of the better better series we're going to see in some time. You've got the two best teams in the NBA right now as it stands right now. You've got the Celtics coming off a sweep of Indiana. Both teams are coming in well rested. I mean, a fault of the NBA is the fact that they allowed so many days in between. They didn't move up the series. They chose not to. But I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to see some good basketball. I do think the Celtics will win it. Of course, Porzingis that's a big key right there. If he doesn't come back by game 3 or game 4, then your Mavericks could easily win this in 6, Steven. So let's see how this goes. I think the Celtics, though, I think they have the horses to win this, and they win their 18th world championship and continue. And now I don't really follow. I'm not as big as a Celtics fan as I used to be back in the 1980s. I've been a little bit down on the NBA for quite some time, but I will say this: I do think that the Celtics, with a healthy Porzingis, matches up well with the Mavericks. Without him, I think this could be very tough for the Celtics to get this in 7. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see when Porzingis can play. He's obviously, I don't think he's going to be playing in game 1. So the Mavericks that's a good opportunity for the Mavericks to steal at least one of those 2 games in Boston.
All right, let's move on to the NHL, the Stanley Cup final. Again, a lot of long, absence in between now. And, this is a Connor McDavid's legacy series. It's on the line. Edmonton finally, after trading away so many stars that helped catapulted them in the 80s, obviously due to the economics, just trading away Gretzky, Mark Messier, Yari Curry, among others. The Edmonton Oilers was kind of on the downhill. They did get to the Stanley Cup final back in 2005-2006, where they lost to Carolina.
Yeah.
From there, they've had a lot of lottery luck. Lucking in drafting Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, among others. Certainly, those guys make up the core of that team right now. They came back down 2-1 to blitz the Dallas Stars in 6 games. On the other hand, on the Eastern Conference, you have Florida outlasting the New York Rangers in 6 games as well. They're back again for the second consecutive year. They got the home field advantage in this one, I believe. So this is going to be a very interesting series. The distance between Edmonton and Florida is just astronomical. Whoever handles the flight, the travel, and the time difference is going to be a huge, going to have a huge advantage without a doubt. And I don't have a dog in this race, Ken, but you know what? I'll just say Oilers in 6 because of Connor David.
Yeah, I mean, Florida is a stronger team. They also come in a little bit experienced from last season. I think last season they were happy to be in the Stanley Cup final. This year they know what it takes. Of course, remember a couple seasons ago they won the President's Trophy and got eliminated. So I think they realized that they need to preserve their energy. And of course, they beat the President's Trophy winner in the Boston Bruins last season, and then they beat the President's Trophy winner, the New York Rangers, this season. So it just goes to show the President's Trophy, which is for the winner, which is goes to the team that wins the most points in the regular season, means nothing. So, and basically what the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs are, Stephen, is just a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you've got to win 16 games. Florida, I think, has the better opportunity to do that. Although I would love to see Edmonton win. I just want to see a Canadian team win, so I can stop hearing my Canadian friends up in the north saying, "Oh, and stop bitching and moaning about the fact they're victims in the National Hockey League and haven't won since 1993 when Montreal won the last Stanley Cup for a Canadian team."
Yeah,
Canada's had the opportunities.
It's long overdue.
Yeah, it's Calgary, 2005, Edmonton, Vancouver. Well, Vancouver deserved to lose because they lost to my Boston Bruins, and Vancouver doesn't deserve anything. Doesn't deserve any. By the way, interestingly enough, Stephen, while we're talking about this, ESPN is airing a 30 for 30 documentary on the Vancouver riots in 2011 after the Boston Bruins beat the Vancouver Canucks in Game 7. The riot lasted 5 hours, but they're spending 2 hours on the riot on the documentary. So I'm kind of enjoying that. I'm kidding. I'm not enjoying it. I'm done. I know my friends in Vancouver aren't going to like that. But let me just say this. I'm just tired of bitching and moaning by the Canadian hockey fans saying that they're victims and how Gary Bettman hates them. Well, that's true. Gary Bettman does hate Canada. Let's just say this. I do think this is Edmonton's year. I do think they have a good opportunity to win. As you mentioned, they've got that great power play, which scored twice in the clinching game against against Dallas on Saturday night, Stephen. So Sunday night. So I really have a feeling that Edmonton, if this may be their year. You talk about Connor McDavid, you talk about Leon Draisaitl. You also have Evander Kane, who's a really tough player and an enforcer who's making sure that no one touches Connor McDavid. But Florida's got some great players in Verhaeghe. They've got some great goaltender in Bobrovsky. They have a great coach as well. So I just think that it's going to be a really fun series. But I agree with you. I say Edmonton wins in 6.
Okay. All right. Let's do some wrap up before we go today. Again, unfortunate news hit today in the world of baseball. We've been hearing a lot about the gambling problems that's plaguing the sports, and MLB suspended multiple players for gambling violations today. But one of that player got a real big deal.
Oh,
here, Jeff Passan reported that San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano, 24 years old, had been banned from baseball for gambling. This is a serious stuff.
And banned for life.
Banned for life. I can't think of any. Well, this is probably the first person in baseball to get a lifetime suspension since what? Pete Rose?
Yeah, Pete Rose.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think so. And then Shoeless Joe Jackson. So yeah, those
That's
guys.
True. I don't think nobody got banned from using illegal substances. But
no. No one. I mean, for steroids, Barry Bonds wasn't really suspended. David Ortiz received a suspension. Same with Alex Rodriguez. But it was nothing like we saw for gambling, like we saw with Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, and now this most recent one. I'm looking for the. I'm trying to see if I can find the press release that I had on my phone from Major League Baseball. I saw it earlier today. I just can't find it. But Steven, that is just really egregious when you get banned for life, especially in this day and age. Now that baseball kind of actually embraced gambling for the longest time. If you remember, they didn't do it. Willie Mays also got a ban for gambling too because he associated with casinos. It was finally until Bart Giamatti came in that released that suspension that Kuhn put on him. It was really unthinkable that Willie Mays would have been banned from baseball. But here we are now, Stephen, in this day and age where sports leagues embrace the things like FanDuel and they embrace everything. And they embrace gambling. The fact is that you see a situation like now where you have a player banned for life and other players suspended. it still goes to show that baseball is taking this seriously and wants to make sure that no one bets against their own team.
Yeah. We had one with Jonte Porter, NBA, who got suspended for life. Turns out that he was heavily in debt himself. So, these players are ripe for picking. If you have mob, or a terrorist organization starts to get involved, let's just say, for example, and, start to, force them to throw games, this could be a massive problems. It's not just the individuals. This could be like some sort of a coordinated effort with the, individuals being, blackmailed by terror, like a mob or terrorist organizations to throw away games intentionally. And this could have a huge ramification. We've seen NFL players getting suspended, already an entire year. Calvin Ridley, that is, back in 2022, I believe, when he was with still with the Falcons, of course. But these things are going to only continue to happen. And unfortunately, it will only going to get worse, because certainly I think a lot of owners and even the commissioners are looking ways to recoup revenue that they lost from the regional sports network disaster. So unfortunately, they're dancing with the devil, and certainly when you see something like this happens, it maybe the temptations get in the way, and certainly the devil has gotten the upper hand in these cases, and it could really get ugly eventually, where we could see players intentionally throwing away games. Or shape points and stuff like that moving forward. I think there's obviously, because of the money that is heavily involved in this, it's gotten into the outer space. These things probably have happened before. We just probably didn't know about it, but now it's out there, so it will only going to get worse, Ken.
Yeah, I do have the press release here, so I have the players. I'll go over them. San Diego's Padres outfielder Tucupita Marcano has been declared permanently ineligible for violating sports betting rules and policies. Other players, Oakland A's Major League pitcher Michael Kelly has been declared ineligible for 1 year. He's been suspended. His minor league pitcher Jay Groom declared ineligible for 1 year. Philadelphia Phillies minor league infielder Jose Rodriguez is suspended for a year. Arizona Diamondbacks minor league pitcher Andrew Saalfrank declared ineligible for a year. All these for violating Major League Baseball sports betting rules and policies, including Rule 21B1. I'm not going to read the whole rule because we're just going to get bored by it.
Sure.
But it just goes to show how serious that the Major League Baseball is taking this. The fact is, it says Marcano placed 387 baseball bets, including 231 Major League Baseball related bets, and among other bets on international baseball games through a legal sports book. Marcano's MLB bets were generally parlays, which would sometimes include MLB related legs, and they would sometimes include MLB related legs and non-MLB legs. And in total, Marcano bet on more than $150,000 in baseball, with 87,319 of that on MLB-related bets. So it just goes to show that Major League Baseball is taking this seriously. They don't want players to be betting on baseball. And although that a lot of players feel that, and not all players are millionaires, mind you, a lot of them are just making the league minimum. They're trying to supplant their salary somehow. But I guess the message of not betting on baseball, the sport that you play, is just not getting through.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's a 1 year's a lengthy suspension. Certainly, not being able to play professional baseball obviously takes away your livelihood, and obviously when you try to get another job because you're suspended, it certainly is not going to look good for you too. When you have to interview for any kind of job, because there's something like this happening. So hopefully, the players will take it to heart and learn their lessons. But unfortunately, again, I have a feeling this is only going to get worse. And, you're going to see maybe start hearing, big names might actually get involved. And speaking of the big names, obviously, several months ago, a lot of people thought Shohei Ohtani was actually involved in this because his interpreter Ippei Mizuhara was actually stealing money and gambling in large sums. But today, kind of ironically, he pled guilty to all these charges.
Yeah,
certainly, obviously, Ohtani is now exonerated, and I know there are assholes out there, and we've talked about this. Certainly, there are no obviously evidence that links Ohtani to gambling on baseball. Certainly, a man of his talent and the money that he makes, he certainly does not need anything to generate juice or dopamine or adrenaline, whatever you want to call it. So I found it interesting that new players got suspended. The guy that people certainly really wanted to get suspended was exonerated to a degree. So it's interesting. So
yep, it will probably see more of this, Stephen, as the FanDuels and, as you mentioned, DraftKings continue their sponsorship of sports leagues and other gambling houses as well. ESPN Bet is another one. So, and of course, you have Barstool with their own betting house as well.
ESPN BetTube now has it.
Yep, mentioned that. So we'll hear more of this, Stephen. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but with sports gambling legalized by the Supreme Court a few years ago, the fact is that these betting houses are also in bed with Major League Baseball and football and hockey, and we're seeing ads for it as well. And there are gambling experts all over the place on Major League, on the professional leagues pregame shows, and we're also now seeing betting lines on ESPN's bottom line on the scroll, the crawl that they have on all their games, the ticker they have on all their games. Just goes to show that it's $1 billion industry, Stephen, that's not going away anytime soon. And of course, you go to any casino in the United States, they have all opened a sports book, like Encore Boston. You also go to Bally's in Rhode Island. There's a sports book there. Depending on what state you have, you may have legalized betting on your app, so on your phone. So it's all there. It's all prevalent, and I can see, and it's understandable. It's not justified, but it's understandable why some professional players may feel that if it's out there, why can't I do some betting and supplement my income? So we're going to hear more stories about this. I hate to say it, and it's going to happen, and we'll just have to keep an eye on it.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our show today, Ken. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we covered a lot of it. Certainly, last week obviously we missed it because I was busy packing for my move and everything. But it's so nice to catch up with you and talk so much sports. It was really good to talk with you today. So once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today on our live stream. Pretty good number of people joining us today as well. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see it scrolling in the bottom there as well. And also follow us on X, Twitter. For our own links are also repost of stuff that is going on around the world today, and we certainly thank you for joining us tonight on this Tuesday night, and I hope that everybody will enjoy the NBA and the NHL finals, NBA finals and NHL Stanley Cup finals. After several breaks now, obviously, I think a lot of people are probably wondering what they're going to be watching. with no sports on. So hopefully this is going to be something that everybody will enjoy moving forward. Now, on behalf of Ken Fang, I am Stephen Nagishi. We thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
Yep. Thank you very much for watching. And don't forget, as we go in further into the summer, there'll be baseball. We also have Olympic soccer, which Stephen and I are both looking forward to, and a lot of other things that are be coming up. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.